It looks like I was squeezing her to death.
Are you dying? Are you dying? Yeah.
You're a weird cat. Stop it. Oh. Big fat cat. Okay. Fat girl. Hey. Big fat girl. Pee. Oh my god. Oh, this is super unintentional. To be honest, I'm so sorry. That was funny though. You know, fucking just spell on my face, spills on my fucking mouth. That's gross. Can you not?
Why are you biting on my stuff? I'll break it.
Oh, my mother's probably like mortified. Can you not? Ow, can you not? Ow. Okay. Ow. I put my fucking my lash on the face all in. Okay. Aww. Oh shit. Oh my god, the guy across the street, I feel like he was like, what the fuck? Good. Always. Try to focus on good stuff. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Give me a fucking face. I'm like salivating. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, shit, man. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, shit. Like, so fucking stupid. What was that? Oh, okay. Mhm. Alright. Wow. Oh, Ah, I remember it. Okay. Okay. Who's that? Well, I'm crazy. I don't fucking I have the inclination to do fucking emotional learning. Fucking nuts. Fucking. I'll figure out what fucking else I'm on, but. Fuck off. Oh, no, I'm logged in again. Okay, sure. Okay, whatever. Why not? Fucking bullshit.
Crushing fatigue that you feel when you're in the harbor. Distinctions in your life, and that's just my everyday.
It all started in February.
Yeah, sorry, long haulers are just depressed. Thank you. Oh, God.
Yes, this started with vaccine mandates, but for most here, it's about a lot more.
I think this is more of a freedom movement.
Well over 1,000 people lining the Trans-Canada Highway outside of Winnipeg in -30 wind chills, protesting what they call government overreach.
Somebody has to stand up for Canada and the truckers.
I agree.
It all started a couple days ago in Delta, BC, truckers protesting vaccine mandates at the border. Now, as the convoy logs more kilometers, it's getting more support.
We're just really tired of getting our freedoms back.
Yeah, thanks for the fucking 5G networking. I really need to make sure to add. Fuck, please. Fucking shut the fuck up. Again. Shut the fuck up.
What you believe in?
Arriving outside Winnipeg, hundreds of vehicles taking more than an hour to pass.
I came from Calgary. What do you think of it? What are they doing?
Yeah.
This is the Trans-Canada Highway heading east into Winnipeg. All you really still to stop here. So many people showed up and keep rolling through.
We have every intention of not stopping them, but there's too many people. Like, look at here, we're going to get people run over.
As it rambled by, no one was hit.
Fuck Trudeau. Fuck yeah.
Sanctuary Metro has fallen since BC.
It's a togetherness like I've never felt.
Cool.
And it keeps growing. Manitoba
Yay.
trucker Robert Jorgensen just joined up.
This isn't about a vaccine mandate on truckers. This is about the entire thing.
You feel like fucking feel like sitting around the cold?
Fucking
asshole.
CBC News, heading to Manitoba.
There's like a fucking
The convoy is also growing as a political
nothing better than go fucking send people -30.
Vaccine mandates. And as Travis Gandrash explained, as the protest moves towards Ottawa, there are also concerns about some online threats.
Yeah.
You walk into a grocery store and you see products on the shelves, thank a trucker. This is Scapsalon. Our party believes in individual freedom and the ability for Canadians to make their own healthcare choices.
Conservative MPs have been lining up to support the message many truckers want to deliver on Parliament Hill this weekend. Vaccine mandates infringe on personal freedom and will stall the supply chain.
Oh, I don't think we're gonna see Trudeau again. I think you're going on.
support these truckers fighting for freedom, fighting as patriots in their country.
You know? It's like, and then you guys fucking go and put like Donald Trump's fucking son. Like, no one gives a shit what the motherfucker you're.
Are going to the right place.
Nearly $5 million has been fundraised for the convoy online by organizer Canal Lich, who is part of Alberta's separatist Maverick Party. GoFundMe is now holding the funds until it gets documentation on how the cash will be distributed. And as the convoy rolls on, there are concerns about some supporters' views.
I'm not saying everyone involved in this movement is an extremist, but are definitely trying to aim their narratives at this larger movement to try and see if they can get any traction.
Online, there have been some threats of violence and to the Prime Minister's wife.
I would like to see our own January 6th event. See some of those truckers plow right through that 16-foot wall.
In a statement, Lich says violence won't be tolerated. One federal official told CBC News they're leaving it up to police to deal with online threats. Travis Sandridge, CBC News, Ottawa.
God, fucking hurt. Okay.
At St. Joseph's Mission, survivor stories tell us that many children will remain unaccounted for. It is for those children and families that we grieve the most.
The Williams Lake First Nation has released the preliminary findings of an investigation into the St. Joseph's Mission Residential School. The area being investigated is about 470 hectares, and the findings only cover 14 hectares to date. And a warning to our viewers, what you're about to see and hear is incredibly disturbing.
Oh,
Their bodies were cast into the river, left at the bottom of lakes, tossed like garbage into incinerators. For those children, there will be no headstone, no unmarked grave.
Chief Willie Sellers and St. Joseph's Mission investigators presented their findings at a press conference on Tuesday afternoon. Using several types of radar, investigators have so far found 93 reflections in the grounds of a historic cemetery at St. Joseph's.
They're like, oh, well,
characteristics in evidence of potential human variants.
What the
Current
fuck?
data from the investigation team
Hey, well, how the
suggests that
fuck are you guys
50 of the
saying that?
93 potential burials are not associated with the cemetery. St. Joseph's Mission Residential School operated from 1891 to 1981, mostly at the hand of the Catholic Church. It also functioned as a ranch and farm to sustain the school. Chief Willie Sellers said physical abuse was rampant at the school throughout the decades. Survivors and other records have told of unmitigated disease, poor drinking water, and children running away and trying to kill themselves with poison hemlock. He also describes horrifying accounts of sexual abuse by Catholic priests.
Stories of gang rape and molestation have become part of the fabric of the institution's
Okay.
history.
That's so funny.
So common as one survivor relates that if the school intercom requested a child to attend the office, you knew someone was about to be raped.
He adds that child pregnancies were widespread
Oh,
and covered up to avoid
they're
drawing attention to
still
school
happening.
operations.
We have heard detailed descriptions of how the unwanted babies of certain priests at St. Joseph's were burned in the incinerator.
Oh, fuck.
Chief Sellers says many discussions with other First Nations need to happen before they can consider an excavation of the area, which would give them more definitive answers. He says more geotechnical testing will continue in the coming months and years with the help of provincial
You can
and
just
federal
say that they
governments.
could
Ground
potentially
penetrating radar helped locate the remains of 215
Yeah,
children
like
at the
all over the
Cambridge Indian
country.
Residential School in May last year.
They're fucking
The
all
discovery
coming
made
up the same
international
line.
headlines and
Like,
put a
that they
spotlight on
fucking.
how Indigenous people have been treated in Canada.
You don't want to see, it fall from the public eye. We need to continue to remind this country in order to heal, we need to continue to tell the truth.
Emotional support or assistance for those who are affected by the residential school system can be found at the Indian Residential School Survivors Society toll-free line, 1-800-721-0066.
He's like, well, you know, it happens in anybody's things. Like, the relatives of these people are still alive. Like, they're fucking people's parents, like my friend's parents and grandparents. Like, they didn't just fucking come up with it, and then their sibling was just gone one day. So, fuck, man.
Starting next Monday, January 31, private gatherings will be allowed up to 4
Like, you got a
people
fucking
or 2
stroke and just forgot how to
families.
fucking speak.
Premier François Legault easing some
Fucking-
COVID restrictions in Quebec, happening in 2 phases starting Monday. Quebec
Don't care. Go fuck yourself. Garbage. Just fucking garbage.
I think that it should be alarming to anybody when somebody dies in custody.
On Friday, the RCMP arrested and charged Headingley Corrections Officer Robert Morden with the death of Saugeen First Nations inmate William Amo back in February of 2021. After the autopsy, the chief medical examiner declared that Amo's death was in fact a homicide. An investigation was launched. Morden has been charged with criminal negligence, causing death, and failing to provide the
One of the reasons I love working with Crystal is that she inspires me.
Oh,
The federal government, for its part, is standing firm on this trucker vaccine mandate policy. It put out a statement today, along with the Truckers Alliance of Canada. Carla Qualtrough is the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Disability Inclusion. She's in Delta, BC. Minister Qualtrough, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
I wanted to ask why you felt the need to put out this joint statement with the Canadian Trucking Alliance.
Well, my colleagues and I have worked so closely with the Trucking Alliance, with the industry since the
go
beginning of the
fucking eat a fucking cock. Fucking. I think. Oh my god, it's unreal. So many fucking bullshit and lies.
Did you have an experience?
If categories just dissolve, especially
Oh,
for
I
the
know
government, the culture is dissolving because the culture is a structured category. That's what it is.
Uh-huh.
So, in fact, culture is a structure of category that we all share. So we see things the same way. That's why we can talk. I mean, not exactly the same way because we have nothing to talk about. Roughly speaking, we have a bedrock of agreement. That's the Bible, by the way. So I just walked through the Museum of the Bible in Washington. That was very cool. It's a very cool museum.
So the structure, that's what the Bible.
Yeah, it's what I figured out. I mean, I just figured this out this week.
Huh.
So it was a cool thing to walk through because it's chronological. They have one floor, which is the history of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not exactly that. It's really what it is the history of the book.
Huh?
Now, in many ways, the first book was the Bible. I mean, literally.
Huh.
Because at one point, there was only one book. Like, as far as our Western culture is concerned, there was one book. And for a while, literally, there was only one book. And that book was the Bible. And then before it was the Bible, it was, it was scrolls and it was writings on papyrus. But we were starting to aggregate written text together. And it went through all sorts of technological transformations. And then it became books that everybody could buy, the book everybody could buy, and the first one of those was the Bible, and then it became all sorts of books that everybody could buy. But all those books, in some sense, emerged out of that underlying book. And that book itself, the Bible isn't a book, it's a library. It's a collection of books.
For stories.
And so, what I figured out was partly because I was talking to my brother-in-law, Jim Keller, who's
like,
the world's greatest chip designer.
The
and has
natives
now
don't
designed a
really
chip
have to like
that's as powerful as the human brain, which is
explain to the
optimized for
people
artificial
that they're
intelligence
metaphors
learning.
for like.
And so I
They need
talked
to
to him
learn
about that and
explain
said,
it to.
you heard of the internet?
Don't kill people because
yeah,
it's not nice and you would not like to be killed.
This is way more revolutionary than that. So in any case, we were talking about meaning in text because we were talking about translation and the problem of understanding text. And Jim said, the meaning of words is coded in the relationship of the words to one another. And the postmodernists make that case that all meaning is derived from the relationship between words. That's wrong because, well, what about rage? That's not words. And what about moving your hand? That's not words. So it's wrong, but part of it's right because the meaning we derive from the verbal domain is encoded in the relationship between words. So now then you think, well, let's think about the relationship between words. Well, some words are dependent on other words. Some ideas are dependent on other ideas. The more ideas are dependent on a given idea, the more fundamental that idea is. That's a definition of fundamental. So now imagine you have an aggregation of texts in a civilization. You say, which are the fundamental texts? And the answer is the texts upon which most other texts depend. And so you put Shakespeare way in there in English because so many texts are dependent on Shakespeare's literary revelations. And Milton would be in that category, and Dante would be in that category, at least in translation. Fundamental authors, part of the Western canon, not because of the arbitrary dictates of power, but because those texts influenced more other texts. And then you think about that as a hierarchy, okay, with the Bible at its base, which is certainly the case. Now imagine that's the entire corpus of linguistic production, all things considered. Now, how do you understand that? Like, literally, how do you understand that? The answer is you sample it by reading and listening to stories and listening to people talk. You sample that whole domain. You build a low-resolution representation of that inside you, and then you listen and see through that. And so it isn't that the Bible is true. It's that the Bible is the precondition for the manifestation of truth, which makes it way more true than just true. It's a whole different kind of truth. And I think this is not only literally the case, factually, I think it can't be any other way. It's the only way we can solve the problem of perception.
Introducing just the same to those sweet little everyday tricks, giving someone a helping hand. Leading to me.
Oh my god. Oh. Okay. Okay. Oh my god. Oh. Oh. Oh god. Oh. Okay. Oh my god. Mm. Hmm? Huh. Mm. Oh my god.
George Soros. Does that name ring a bell?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure it does. If you take interest in global trends, popular culture, or geopolitics, you may have definitely come across this name. Let's put a face to it. This is the man we're talking about. He is George Soros, arguably one of the most controversial figures in the world. With as many supporters as detractors, there are reports celebrating his philanthropy, also those questioning his ideas about the world. For some people, Soros is a legend, a financial guru, one of the most successful investors of all time. Yet some believe he's a man of malicious influence, a billionaire who's able to move markets.
That's fucking terrible. I will wait. Okay?
What are done?
A convoy of trucks opposing a federal vaccine mandate made an appearance in Winnipeg today to a large crowd of over 1,000 people cheering them on. The trucks arrived in Headingley around 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon and was welcomed with signs of support before continuing its quest on the perimeter highway.
Oh, jeez, man. Trill's fucking gone.
American military muscle on the runway in Ukraine Tuesday. A U.S. plane delivering the latest shipment of some $200 million in support to beef up Ukraine's forces as it braces for a possible Russian invasion. Moscow denies it's prepping to move in, but the White House says an attack is imminent.
It remains imminent, but again, we can't make
So
decisions about decision President Putin will make. We're still engaged in diplomatic discussions and negotiations.
Hours earlier, though, a call for calm coming from Ukraine's president, urging citizens once again not to panic, but noting the threat is real. The country's defense minister telling Ukrainians there's no need to pack their bags. Still, Moscow's military drills continue, and some 100,000 troops are positioned near Ukraine. And the Kremlin saying Tuesday it's watching U.S. actions with great concern and blaming Washington for escalating tensions. After the Pentagon revealed Monday the U.S. has 8,500 troops on high alert, ready to be deployed if needed.
Just because it takes time.
The U.S. president saying Tuesday he would consider sanctioning the Russian president personally if Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine.
If he were to move into Ukraine, that would be severe consequences.
NATO has put troops on standby, and Western leaders projecting a unified front say they've agreed to unprecedented sanctions against Russia over potential provocations.
Oh my god.
Paris is set to host advisors from Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany Wednesday for talks aimed at diffusing hostilities.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Melissa Duggan, City News.
Oh, fuck it.
Hydration is a risk.
You're fuck us right
Hurry.
Chaos fucking unbelievable. Fucking specific.
I'm fucking one of them for 20 years, so.
Mostly around 17 years, do not know when there's a case in school.
Oh, wow. I can feel that. Very, very beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That's fucking creepy.
Well, that's great. And I want to thank Seth, yourself, and FHL for doing such a wonderful job here. And Meritori, thank you for the great report.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to my scientific.
Mm-hmm.
Suggests margaritas to cope with Biden. Damn it. Fucking piece of shit.
Okay, and then.
Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about Ukraine, because this is also very important. Big geopolitical situation. And as you alluded to, Crystal, trying to sort through the propaganda from the U.S. government and the Russian government on this thing is the biggest headache that could possibly exist. So let's put it all to you straight. What raised our eyebrows and frankly made me a little bit scared was yesterday the White House really escalating their rhetoric, saying that they believe that an invasion of Ukraine from Russia could be imminent. Here's exactly what Jen Psaki had to say.
Staying on Ukraine and Russia, what does the White House make of the evacuation of Russian diplomatic staff from their embassy in Kyiv? And do you think the threat of invasion is getting higher or lower?
Well, I think, as I noted a few minutes ago, we believe we're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack on Ukraine. I would say that's more stark than we have been. In terms of the decision to move to evacuate their embassy or to move personnel out of their embassy, we have information that indicates the Russian government was preparing to evacuate their family members from the Russian embassy in Ukraine in late December and early January. We certainly will refer you to them for more specifics
Canadian
about what their
politicians
decision is, but
the planes and
assessment online.
they're not only have personal jets,
Okay, Crystal, so one of the key elements of manufacturing consent, and especially
want
when it comes to national security operation,
tickets for
is to say
flying,
things
but
are
you
happening
don't
based on intelligence and then launder stuff through the media. Okay, so I've been watching the Russiagate people very closely. Lo and behold, they're getting all sorts of quote-unquote scoops from the CIA and the National Intelligence Community. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Natasha Bertrand, who's possibly one of the worst examples of a Russiagate reporter, reported all kinds of false information at that time, now says, quote, scoop, the U.S. has information that indicates Russia has pre-positioned a group of operatives to conduct a false flag operation in eastern Ukraine, a U.S. official told CNN on Friday, in an attempt to create a pretext for invasion. Story to come. Now, this is again the perfect example of what's the intel? Who actually believes that? They feed it to a friendly reporter, one U.S. official. Does anybody else disagree? But it gets parroted on CNN over and over and over again, gets repeated then to the White House. The White House then reads out a statement saying that we believe something is imminent, all in Ukraine. Let's actually figure out what the hell is going on in Ukraine. Well, there was a revolution. Some say the U.S. was involved. Some say they don't. Back in 2014. Okay, there was a crowded thing. They called it a color revolution. The president was ousted, and a new government of chaos is essentially roiled since then. And then Crimea was also annexed by the Russians. So obviously that was in 2013, kind of preceded some of these events. Well, then what happened? Well, it devolved into a hot/cold civil war in which the Russians were backing some Eastern Ukrainian separatists who largely speak Russian, identify more as Russian. The Ukrainian government obviously did not support that. Big fights here in Washington then, Crystal, over whether the U.S. should arm said Ukrainian rebels. Sound familiar? That was happening in Syria at the time. Obama refused, rightfully, in my opinion, not to arm those Ukrainian rebels. Trump, despite talking about a Russian reset and all of that, actually did arm those Ukrainian rebels. Here's the key point. For an entire, 5-6 years here in D.C., there was a massive fight over arming those rebels. But then once we actually did, nobody actually told you whether it worked or not. And here's the answer. It's 2022. It didn't work. In terms of ending the quote-unquote civil war, that didn't happen. We didn't give them enough firepower in order to actually do anything, because doing so would, basically be a Cold War, whatever type of move against Russia, and they would probably respond in kind. So we gave these guys all these weapons. It actually didn't work out in terms of moving the battle line whatsoever. And finally, it brings us to the year 2022. It's been 8 or so years since the said revolution. And at that point, Russia finds that a lot of this basically arming of the rebels, the current discussion within NATO of bringing Ukraine into the NATO alliance and giving them Article 5 protection is unacceptable to them. And they, because they're a failing gas state, say that, hey, we want to remain powerful and relevant on the world stage. They spark this international crisis in turn. This is not the perfect summary, but I'm trying to give you kind of all sides of the debate here. And what then happens is that they say, you, U.S., can de-escalate this now. Let's put this up there from the BBC. They say, right now, you can stop all of this crisis whenever it comes to Ukraine. All you have to do is say that NATO will never include Ukraine. This is where I just am astounded that we are even pretending that it would be in the U.S. national security interest, Crystal, of letting Ukraine into NATO. This was a dream of 2008. But guess what? Ukraine is in Russia's sphere of influence. It has been for 500 years. They've been fighting over it. It was once part of the USSR and all of that. affording them Article 5 would essentially mean that, you extend the U.S. kind of security nuclear blanket all the way up to the border of Russia. And that is just unacceptable to them from a security situation. And I would just point finally to George Kennan, who was the architect of the U.S. strategy of containment over Cold War, who predicted after the Cold War ended that letting the Eastern Bloc into NATO would spark a new conflict with Russia because it was rubbing it in their face as their downward spiral post-collapse of the Soviet Union.
Not to mention that as part of the deal in terms of reunifying Germany, what we agreed to, we said NATO is not going to expand any further east. And guess what? NATO has expanded a lot further east, and predictably, that has led to these increased tensions. So what we're trying to say is when you're getting all of this in from the US media, all you're hearing is our government's propaganda. And so it becomes very confusing. They have to make Putin, and no one's saying like standing for Putin, pretending like he's a good guy or anything like that. But you have to imagine that he is some like uniquely evil, bombastic caricature of a person, which is, again, typical of the sort of propaganda that our government ultimately puts out to the consumer, in order to help you understand, well, why is he thinking, oh, he's just super aggressive, and that's the only reason why. It's just Putin's a bad guy, and we got to figure out how to check Putin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, this is not to stand for Putin, but to say, from their perspective, they feel like they were lied to by the U.S. and by NATO allies, which is true, that we have expanded NATO and expanded NATO and expanded NATO, and that has led them to feel like they are under threat. Now, NATO said, oh, we're only defensive, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the other thing that's going on that you will barely see mentioned in mainstream press here. In addition to arming Ukraine, we have also been training, the CIA has been bringing over Ukrainians here to effectively train in insurgency. Let's take a look at this tear sheet. This is from Yahoo News. Oh, well, so this is, let's do this first. Blinken is set to meet with Russian, his counterpart, the Russian foreign minister, as Ukraine tension soars. So we will see what comes ultimately out of that. But let's put the next tear sheet up on the screen there. Here we go. CIA-trained Ukrainian paramilitaries may take central role if Russia invades. This is a very good and very unusual piece of reporting here. The lead is the CIA is overseeing a secret intensive training program in the U.S. for elite Ukrainian special operations forces and other intelligence personnel. That program started in 2015. It's based in an undisclosed facility in the southern U.S. It started under Obama, it was expanded under Trump, and it has been further expanded under Joe Biden, just so you get a sense of how bipartisan the support for the deep state and the military-industrial complex ultimately is. One person familiar with this program put its goals very bluntly. The United States is training an insurgency to kill Russians. Going back decades, the CIA has provided limited training to Ukrainian intelligence units to try and shore up an independent Kyiv and prevent Russian subversion, but cooperation, quote, ramped up after the Crimea invasion, said a former CIA executive. So those are some of the activities that our government is engaged in. Did you vote on that? Did they ask you if you wanted, the CIA to be secretly training covert, training an insurgency here and getting us more entwined? Did they ask you about that? No, I bet they didn't. Just like they didn't tell you that there are reasons outside of just Putin being a maniac why Russia feels threatened by the potential incursion of NATO in Ukraine.
We're not trying to stand for Russia. I don't like Russia. I think territorial conquests and wars of that are really bad. That being said, it comes down to how bad do you think it is? Is it bad enough in order to risk the lives of American soldiers? Here's the problem, which is that currently the Biden administration says that, the penalties for invading Ukraine would be economic only. Okay, that's a proportional response, I think. But here's the problem, right? When you have these CIA-backed rebels, and they're there, and they start firing off, and maybe they fail, and then there's pressure here in the national security state in order to escalate even more. You got to give up more arms. Have you heard this story before? It's called the Bay of Pigs. This literally happened already. And this is the problem. There's steps up the escalation ladder. that can make it and bring the tensions extremely high and make it so that, Russia could feel as if we have, literally exported troops here, then encroaching on what they would consider their sovereign territory, especially if they annex it. I'm not saying even that I agree, but it's important to always understand that the enemy gets a vote whenever it comes to war, and especially whenever it comes to strategic posturing and conflict. And trying to understand and see the failures of the U.S. national security establishment. You had the hubris to think that you could invite Ukraine and Georgia into NATO back in 2008 and just simply think that the Russians would be too weak and do nothing to care about it. It's crazy. Look, yes, they're a failing economy and they're massive demographic decline and their economy is their society is mostly like a joke, but they have nuclear weapons. You have to respect that. These are also historically proud people who are not going to be pushed around and have a much higher capacity for suffering and for tension than we ever do here in the West. Any read of Russian history will tell you that.
Well,
so respect your adversary and understand where they're coming from.
That is true. That is true. And if you don't, then you're going to be very confused about what events are unfolding and why they're unfolding and what the actual options are that are on the table. And even with the economic sanctions, I mean, these are either mostly for show and they don't have any impact, or they fall on not the elites, no matter how you target them. They always have ways of getting around this. They fall hardest on the people. I mean, that's what economic sanctions ultimately do. You're much more likely to punish the Russian people than you are to punish Vladimir Putin with any sort of sanctions regime. So those are the stakes. That's sort of the context as you're consuming news. Just keep in mind that we can very easily spot the sort of like state media propaganda, Pravda and whatever coming out of Russia. Just know you are getting just as much propaganda from your government. It's just done in an even more sort of like crafty and often effective way because they pose as neutral journalists, which at least some people still believe them.
Yeah, absolutely. And has a capacity to really get completely out of control. When bullets start flying, I mean, missiles. This is not a joke. This is not some AK-47 war in Afghanistan. This is a real nuclear power. This is a proxy conflict which has hundreds of years of history and tension. I was just listening to something this morning, a Russian history podcast about wars over and stuff. This goes back to like 1500, right? So it's important to understand that context. It's important to also realize the escalation ladders and that whenever you have constrained options that come from the national security state and their interest in their long-held dream, really, of confronting Russia, that Biden could really be put into a box and put in a situation which is not in anybody's interest out in these states.
That's what they're so good at, is putting presidents in a box. And I mean, that's what happened with Bay of Pigs. Exactly. JFK said, no, I'm not going the next level that you want me ultimately to go. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut. Our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions. All that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
That's all.
War, and especially whenever it comes to strategic posturing and conflict, and trying to understand and see the failures of the U.S. national security establishment. You had the hubris to think that you could invite Ukraine and Georgia into NATO back in 2008 and just simply think that the Russians would be too weak and do nothing to care about it. It's crazy. Look, yes, they're a failing economy and they're massive demographic decline and their economy is, or their society is mostly like a joke, but they have nuclear weapons. You have to respect that. These are also, historically proud people who are not going to be pushed around and have a much higher capacity for suffering and for tension than we ever do here in the West. Any read of Russian history will tell you that. So respect your adversary.
The Joe Rogan experience.
And one of the things I'm trying to do. Self.com, a new article from Self.com, what the future of fitness really looks like. It's time to break free from fitness's anti-fatness. For many, the world of fitness can be far more limiting than freeing. In gyms, on social media, and in other fitness-dedicated spaces, the focus on what our bodies look like can make it hard for those with bodies that don't conform to narrowly defined norms to feel like they belong. For far too long,
People with larger bodies have been met with limitations, judgment, and intimidation in spaces designed to help us all reach our potentials. Over the last few years, thanks to the body positivity movement, as well as other thoughtful explorations that have challenged complacent ideas.
If you can't pay attention, you can't achieve your goals. I want to read this book, or a bigger goal. I want to write a book. I want to set up a business. I want to be a good dad, whatever it might be. Whatever your goals are, if you lose your ability to pay attention, you cannot achieve those goals. That's true at a personal level, and that's true.
Welcome back, Danger Cat. Let me paint a scenario for you that every self-righteous dude has found himself in. Your buddy rings you up, asks you, hey, let's go for a couple of drinks. You know damn well, being the dude that you are, there's no such thing as a couple of drinks. Fast forward to the morning.
Fucking piece of shit.
Wow.
What is it like to be you? Like, what is it like to, and then I know, you've gone through a lot of shit. And this latest thing with getting off of the benzodiazepine, that to me was a real shocker. Because, first of all, I had no idea that you were taking it. And then to find out that it's that difficult to get off of, and then to hear from other people that have tried to get off of it, how difficult it is. And then to realize how many people around me have an issue with that stuff. Xanax is a motherfucker. And I didn't know what a motherfucker it was until I talked to a friend who is a counselor at a drug rehab center. We were saying that that is one of the ways that people get locked back into drinking and doing drugs is a psychiatrist will prescribe Xanax. And sober people who get on Xanax all of a sudden start drinking. He said it's super common. He said that it's one of the most difficult drugs to get off of. He said, and this is something that Dr. Carl
I honestly
I've
done drugs for a fucking long ass time. That shit
he
is
speaks
fucked
so
up.
openly and honestly about drugs, and the guy's a professor at Columbia. He said that there's two drugs that will kill you when you get off of one. He goes, it's alcohol and benzodiazepine. Those are two that if you just quit, you fucking die. And or you wish you. Meanwhile, they're handing those things out.
Or you wish you.
Yeah. Well, they were regarded as a safe substitute for barbiturates, and you could easily overdose on barbiturates, especially with alcohol.
Oh yeah, no, my grandmother almost died.
The difficulty of detoxing yourself from this.
Very recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And when did they start being handed out?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Fuck. More. So what happened? People just stayed on them?
Yep. It's addictive.
I have one good friend that takes it every day and takes it oftentimes with alcohol, which I know you're absolutely not supposed to do. There's not a damn thing I can do about it. This is a friend that I love to death, and I just go, I put my hands up and I go, it's not like it. And he's been on for more than 10 years.
Yeah, well, I started taking them because I was ill.
Yeah.
And they helped because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep at all. I don't know. Well, I still really don't know what happened.
You couldn't sleep. And so an anti-anxiety medication. Do you think that, and this is one of the things that I want to talk to you about, this is why I brought up the fame thing. How much of the pressure of being attacked by all these different people and having these people write these horrible articles about you, and I know you read that stuff, which is different from me. I don't read stuff about me, and I think that's helped me tremendously. And that, like, my gauge of how I deal with people is, like I
Tucker
said,
Carlson doesn't read things about him either.
You can tell. You can tell by the way he communicates. He seems free. There's a burden that people carry around when they read things about themselves. Like Eric Weinstein has that burden sometimes. When people read.
Yeah, well, part of the reason, so did I read things about me? Well, yeah, but that wasn't what was stressful exactly, although it was.
What
was
multitude
stressful
of
when I first got, I've had a history of depression, and that runs in my family, and that's probably stems back for me right to the time when I was a kid. And I think when I really got sick in 2016, it was partly a manifestation of that. But at the time, my job was threatened, like actually, and my clinical practice was threatened, and the Canadian Revenue Agency was after me all at the same time. And they were after me because of a mistake they made, which they admitted 3 months later. And the college was after me because of a vindictive client who came after me with a pack of lies, but because they were so, and basically I emerged from that unscathed, but that was by no means obvious that that was going to be the case. I was accused of sexual misconduct. And the evidence? When I was dealing with this client, I would turn my wedding ring around.
You'd spin it?
Well, I play with it.
Right. And that was sexual misconduct?
Yeah, well, to her, it was a signal of some dark underlying desire that that was polluting our therapeutic relationship.
I've been doing that with you the whole conversation.
Yeah.
I have this silicone wedding ring.
Yeah, well, I'm going to report you if you
have in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I do that all the time.
Yes, well, there you go. It's really bad. And if there was a college that governed the behavior of reprobates like you, I would definitely report. No, don't do that. That's terrible.
I stretch it out.
No, that's Freudian to the extreme. Although I don't know what turning it means.
How can this stretching a silicone wedding band be Freudian?
Well, you're putting your finger in the little hole.
Fuck off.
Rubber is, that stuff. Anyway, we don't have to go there.
So that was all you had done was play with your wedding ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
I really helped her a lot.
Unfortunately, when you're dealing with people that are extremely troubled, oftentimes they look for external reasons why they're troubled, and they find oppressors.
Well, she was also angry with me because when all this blew up around me, it interfered with my clinical practice, and she had come to rely on our weekly meetings, and so she was angry about being abandoned, and it was really sad because I didn't want to abandon my clients, but I had to stop my clinical practice, which was also very upsetting to me because I had like 20 clients and I knew these people, man. I knew these people.
Yeah.
I'd followed them through thick and thin. And then all of a sudden, so many things piled up around me that I found when I was in a clinical session that I was distracted. So you can't be distracted in a clinical session.
Right.
And so, anyways, what emerged from that, and it was in the middle of the winter, and I have seasonal affective disorder, I couldn't sleep at all for quite a long time. And I went to my doctor and I said, I can't sleep. And he gave me a sleeping medication and an anti-anxiety drug. And I took a little bit of the anti-anxiety drug and I could sleep. And my life was pretty stressful. And I thought, okay, I'm much better. I'm just going to leave this be. This is working. I'm not going to muck with it because I could barely go back to work.
And what, was it a low dose?
Yeah. I couldn't even feel it.
Really?
So yeah, it was a low dose.
So it alleviated the anxiety, but it didn't affect your cognitive performance, or it didn't affect the way.
Well, it didn't affect it as much as how sick I was. Like that really affected.
So sick meaning depressed.
No.
When you say you're sick.
No. When it hit, if I stood up, my blood pressure was really low. If I stood up, I'd faint. I was fainting 5 or 6 times a day.
When are we talking about?
2016.
Okay, so this was when all the pressure from all these different sources was coming at you.
Yeah.
And that was making you sick. So it's physically.
That was part of it. I think what it did was it stressed me enough so that I was more susceptible to whatever was wrong with me in the first place.
So there was
I had a lot of immunological problems.
How long did it take you to recover from the benzos?
Well, when I finally 2 years, and I haven't fully recovered, but I was also sick. No, my left hand is quite numb.
Oh wow!
And was way more numb. Both hands and my feet were completely numb, and I was in like excruciating pain.
It was like nerve damage.
2 years, like pain at levels that I didn't even know was possible.
Yeah.
All the time, or
no
occasion?
No. This is one of the things that was terrible about it is that it was really, really bad in the morning.
And did it start right after you got off of the tracks?
No, but it got way worse.
So it just started showing up eventually.
Yeah.
And then
it started to get worse about the same time that Tammy went into the hospital, but because she was fighting her way through catastrophic cancer at the same time when this started.
So this was additional stress.
Yes.
And that heightened everything.
Well, it certainly didn't help.
Right.
I think it made me more susceptible to something that was already happening. So whatever this illness has that's plagued my family, my father, my grandfather, multiple cousins, and a lot of immunological problems on my mother's side too. I have a cousin whose daughter died.
I feel like I don't even want to know.
The same ones that Michaela had.
And this is all mitigated somehow or another by this only eating meat diet?
I don't know. It certainly is for Michaela.
And for you?
Well, I don't know that for sure. I know what the diet has done.
I'm dynamite.
I guess the first thing I'd like to just ask you is how you're doing.
I'm doing great.
That's hilarious.
So what's great about what you're doing? What's so good about your life?
Well, right now I'm in the process of putting together my next stand-up comedy special. So I'm at the process now where I've actually put together a whole new hour of material since my Netflix special, which came out in October. So that's great for me. That's always a relaxing moment because it's very difficult to put that hour together.
And so how do you go about doing that?
A lot of writing, a lot of performing, a lot of reading, a lot of going over notes, a lot of examining material, a lot of reviewing sets and trying to find out what I like and what I don't like. It's a long and brutal process. It's the most fun, but also the most difficult part of stand-up creation of material.
So how many hours do you think you put in of work to do an hour's worth of stand-up? Any idea?
That's a really good question. It's usually about, I can create a solid 10 minutes a month. That's usually what it is. So it takes me 6 months to do an hour. And in that 6 months, on an average week, I'll do 8 or 9 sets. So that's 8 or 9, either half hour or hours of material, sometimes 15 minutes, usually an hour, depending on where I'm working and how many other people are on the show. And then a lot of time writing.
So you're doing those sets in front of live audiences all the time?
Yeah, you have to. That's the weird thing about stand-up comedy. It seems to be that it's not something.
Case.
Breakfast, planning to go to the grocery stores today, with all of these normal things, seemingly unaware of the absolute dependence they have on these truckers and the work they're doing. Truckers standing up not only for themselves and their own work, but for all.
What the fuck?
That looks like it was taken last night from helicopter.
Crazy.
Tell us a little bit about what you saw from up in the sky.
So it was actually this morning. We were up at about 4 a.m. to get out there and to get up in the helicopter. By the time we got out, it was about 6:37. The convoy was originally slated to leave at 7 a.m. But as Sheila mentioned, it seems like a universal consensus among these truckers and among the convoy that these weight scales simply would not
partner with the open are all open, and they're all doing due diligence on a level that has never before been seen. So there seems to be some weight to that alleged conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theories tend to come true these days in the COVID world, so it remains to be seen if we'll be able to find some information on that. But as we got out into the sky, it was incredible. We approached the truck stop in South Calgary, where the crowd was gathering. As we mentioned, they were supposed to roll in last night, but some people were still arriving because of the massive delays this morning, well into the departure time. So instead of having the convoy rolling out as we flew up, we simply had the group beginning to gather. It was a sight to be seen, hard to gauge the number of trucks that were there, but as we flew over the truck stop, there was vehicles lined up all the way around it, cars, people parked, honking, supporting the trucks, all had their lights flashing, and it was certainly something to be seen, and that footage definitely shares the story. The pictures were more than 1,000 words. So, but it was incredible to see all these people gathered. Even as we made our way out in the early morning, we could see trucks driving from all directions with signs converging and gathering. And shortly after we departed the helicopter and landed again, we drove into town. There's you can stay for so long in a helicopter. We drove to where the convoy was leaving town. We caught the tail end of that, and we've only been through a province and a half of progress of this convoy building. People are still just joining it right now, but it was already pretty much as far as your eye could see both directions. We had ample time to park as the convoy rolled up, walk a little bit of a ways, set up and film. So I can't imagine how big this is going to get by the time it reaches Ottawa. Like Sheila said, this is certainly sort of a unique national event. We're seeing for the first time these media outlets very often out there who've completely ignored the stories, completely ignored when 10,000 people are in the streets of Toronto, 5,000 people in the streets of Calgary. Even they're starting to cover this because this is so significant. It's starting to affect, like you said, the supply chain, starting to affect people's lives on a more personal level. The story is expanding, and the sentiment that we got from people literally up in the air. Even on the weekend, we had this large protest, the Worldwide Rally for Freedom. The mood in the air is that the veneer is starting to crack, the facade is falling away, and people can kind of optimistically sense that hopefully freedom is around the corner.
Yeah. I think something is changing also. I think some people who complied under some duress to get 2 jabs are now feeling betrayed. They're being told that they're dirty, unclean, anti-vaxxers if they don't get a 3rd jab, and they have to take tests, and there's more lockdowns, especially in Ontario and Quebec. And I think a lot of people are having a bit of buyer's remorse for really being suckered. So I think you have that. I think people are realizing an obvious fact, which is that the vaccines do not actually stop you from getting the virus, which I think is sort of stunning to a lot of people. That's what the word vaccine has always meant. And I think people are just tired. Now, by the way, it is true that the supply chain is a factor, but but I think that that's just a utilitarian approach. I think it's the personal freedom of everyone is a much larger factor, including the freedom of these truckers. And I think that they mess with the wrong group.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah, I will agree with you there. I know a little something about the trucking industry. My husband works in oil field trucking, and my father-in-law was a long-haul trucker for a very long time before he made the switch into oil field heavy haul. And Justin Trudeau really bungled this one because, you can push around government workers, you can push around a certain group of people. But the thing with long-haul truckers, particularly the ones that make the long drive from the United States up to Canada, bringing the hipsters their avocados for their avocado and toast. These are people who like their time alone. You don't get into heavy haul, long haul trucking if you like having a boss over your shoulder. These are people who embrace freedom and like the freedom of the open road, and they don't like being told what to do. And that's when you get into an industry like long haul trucking. And so when Justin Trudeau picked a fight with them, he picked a fight with the wrong people. And now all the opposition is coalescing around this one group.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Answer the Rad Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview an interesting guest. And then I read my emails. You've got to subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.
Get the fuck out of here. Fucking crazy. Fuck you.
Canada has lost the plot when it comes to COVID vaccines and COVID mandates. Plus, Aaron.
Thank you. Shut up.
I'm Action Attacks. You're watching Going Underground from a country dominated by doubts over the Premiership of Boris Johnson as he tries to save himself with something called Operation Red Meat. The 2.5 million food bank users who've arguably suffered under Conservative leadership, red meat and food itself is something that must be substituted and sacrificed under a so-called rising cost of living crisis. Joining me now from Eugene, Oregon is Professor Michael Thackeray, the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food, to discuss the nutritional value of neoliberalism. Thank you so much, Professor Thackeray, for coming on, Special Rapporteur. I suppose I better just start with something very general, given that where I'm talking to you from, not far from food banks, something not seen here for decades. Why is food scarcer in 2022 when there's more food supply than ever before?
Yeah, thank you, Ashton, for having me. And you're quite right to start with the question of food banks, especially in the UK. So first, it highlights that the issue of hunger and malnutrition is not just a matter of poor countries. Rich countries alike are having a serious issue today, and it is on the rise. And the increased use of food banks indicates it's not an issue, as you pointed, an issue of there isn't enough food. There's been more than enough food, globally speaking, on a per capita basis for the last 60 years. The issue always, when there's a rise of hunger, malnutrition, and especially famine, is always indicative of a political failure, of the failure of institutions not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and politicians not being responsive to people's needs. The concern today, what's happening with COVID, is COVID has made existing problems worse. Hunger was on the rise even before the pandemic, and there were a lot of endemic problems before the pandemic. And what the pandemic has done is it's complicated supply chain issues. But the term supply chain disruption is too abstract. What it means is workers in farms, workers in the supply chain, workers in restaurants are getting sick. They're not being protected properly. So what it's showing is how we treat the people who are essential to keeping us well fed has always been problematic.
I'll follow the chain back in a moment, but I mean, in your country, what, 40 million at least rely on the food stamp program. Surely the Biden administration would say, political failure? No, this is political success. The food stamps are feeding people.
So in the United States, hunger, as you pointed, has also been on the rise, just like in the UK. And so there's been some adjustments to programs here and there, but just like the use of food banks, or whether it's the use of in the United States, the SNAP program, more popularly known as food stamps, these are all the equivalent of saying it's like the equivalent of an emergency room. So it's dealing with things in the immediate sense, but the structural issues of how we fundamentally organize our relationship with land, with the ecosystem, with each other has not been adjusted. And in the United States, there's a long-standing issue of racism that stems from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which the Biden administration has not been able to overcome. It's been blocked by the courts in many regards. So people like
why racism?
Yeah, so the United States, very specifically, black farmers have been dispossessed from their land from the era from the minute they were free from slavery until today. So a common phrase is that the USDA was the last plantation in the United States. So there's a long pattern up until today of specifically black farmers being dispossessed from their land, not being granted access to credit the same way white farmers are given access to credit and financing. And so over the years, there's been a decrease in black farmers over the years. And then if you look at other groups, indigenous people, immigrant communities, minorities by any definition, it's hard to get into farming. But it's hard for anyone to get into farming in the United States. So there's racism, and there's the corporate domination of the farming sector in the U.S., but also globally.
Obviously, banks deny that they conclude creditworthiness on the idea of racism. You're painting some sort of apartheid picture there.
Well, banks will, no one will say I am a racist, right? No one will admit that it's structural, meaning it's the pattern of how these loans are made and who gets those loans. And then if you add it up in the aggregate, you see these very clear patterns of who's winning and who's losing. And it is black farmers. And so it does mimic patterns of apartheid, it mimics patterns of discrimination in the past. So it's deeply problematic. The Biden administration did try to do something recently and provide specific relief for black farmers, but that was blocked at the through the courts. And so black farmers have heard time and time again, administration after administration, regardless of political party, of being helped, and no one has really solved the problem.
But the leader of the House of Commons here, Jacob Rees-Mogg, said that food banks kind of to be celebrated. They are, quotes, rather uplifting. What a good, compassionate country we are. Every food bank, and you see, is actually something to be celebrated, and politicians in recent months have enough to be Instagrammed beside them, showing how great food banks are, whereas you're saying, you appear to be saying they're a kind of indictment.
Well, food banks, the language of compassion, I think, captures the limitation of food banks. Most food banks still are working on a charity model, which is, but for the power of those with money, of donations, do those food banks work? Food is an entitlement. Without it, we can't live. And food banks, to say these are a good thing, is like to say, well, our healthcare system is doing great. Everyone can have access to an emergency room, as opposed to say, why are people hungry in the first place? Why are people using the food bank in the first place? They shouldn't have to get to that point. And food banks themselves in the United Kingdom say, you should be relying on us. We're just doing our best at the final point. But at the very beginning, families shouldn't have to seek charity. Food is an entitlement. They should be able to feed their families by matter of course.
And the right to food is enshrined in the UN?
Well, like any right, it's an issue that people debate. I think the right to food is one of the least controversial rights out there. I have, even countries that may not have technically or formally enacted the right to food in their laws, very few will argue that there is not a right to food. So the right to food is recognized in international law. It is recognized in human rights. It is recognized in many UN institutions at the core of what they do, whether it's the Food and Agricultural Organization or any of the other UN institutions. And then different national systems incorporate the right to food in a lot of different ways. What's exciting about the United Kingdom is many people at the city level, at the municipal level, at local government, are taking up the right to food as something anyone can enact. So you don't have to wait for a parliament to enact the right to food. It is your entitlement. And any public institution can say, we're going to enact the right to food, and we're going to treat food as something, as a basic necessity that people are entitled to, and therefore we have to marshal public resources to make sure everyone has access to good, nutritious food that's appropriate for the particular context.
Cases of malnutrition have been rising, and some studies show that since the bailouts of the City of London, 150,000 may have been killed by austerity, which food must be a part of. But we covered Yemen the other day, Britain and the United States supporting weaponry to bomb Yemen. I'm not sure how that works with this right to food, because obviously blockades of ports, United States sanctions on countries, how does that fit in with any kind of internationally recognized idea of right to food?
Well, this highlights it highlights that the problem is always political with hunger and malnutrition. So, I'll get to how the right works in a second, but first to point to the issue in Yemen, there was a report by a group of so-called eminent experts from the United Nations in September 2020, and they said the issue is absurd, that it's a travesty of the situation of famine in Yemen, and who's hurt most by these blockades often it is children in this situation, and it's a choice. So hunger, when you see instances of hunger, malnutrition, and famine, it's always the result of political choices that are made. So by framing the issue as a right, what it's saying is, governments, you are falling short of your obligations, and you can change this. You can't point to just natural conditions or say it's the pandemic. It creates a relationship of obligation and accountability. It means people can hold their politicians accountable for these instances of hunger and malnutrition, and it can't be wrapped up in rhetoric of just a scientific solution or a technical solution or just charity. That it has to be, it's an issues at the core of how governance works, how government works, for to be more specific.
Well, obviously, the US administrations, British administrations, deny using food as a weapon. I don't know whether you think they are. I mean, it's 25 years since Madeleine Albright, the first woman Secretary of State, famously, she said, as regards the 500,000 reputed children to die in sanctions against Iraq, is a price worth paying. Is food being used as a weapon today?
Food is being used as a weapon in Yemen and in many other areas where there's an increase in conflict and where there are blockades, where there are unilateral actions blocking the importation of necessary products in several countries around the world.
You know, and the United States and Britain are the biggest donors of aid to Yemen as well.
Indeed. So isn't that ironic? We'll block your natural. This is this is sort of what in the message they're saying is we're going to create a blockade and block your natural commerce and way of getting access to food. We're going to make it difficult to grow your own food, and then we're going to subsidize our own farmers and use that to donate food. And then inevitably, who wins? It's not people in Yemen. It's the powers that are donating. So in this model of donation, people are the wins of donors, as opposed to being self-sustaining, as opposed to being able to live their regular lives, importing from where they need to import, and just have regular commerce. So even a system where donations are coming in, the people receiving the donations always still remain at the mercy of those giving them food. And a relationship of donations and receiving donations is not a healthy relationship. It's not a relationship with dignity. This is at the core of the issue.
Well, the UN claims 377,000 people killed since the war began. The war fueled by Britain and the United States in terms of weapons sales. Obviously, you seem to be suggesting these parallels from the food bank on your street right up to geopolitical aid. I suppose we better get to commercial systems of food. Are you allowed to call out individual corporations and companies? Because when journalists try and do that, and this seems to sound like a monopoly situation when it comes to global agricultural corporations, they get sued for defamation.
So I can be very specific. I've covered these in my reports to the United Nations. I've pointed to the so-called Big Four companies. So our global food system is dominated by a small number of companies. And they are part of the problem. So the other reason, so I've pointed to the failure of politicians and of government, but the other problem in our food system is asking the question, who controls the main elements of the food system? Access to land, access to seeds, working conditions. And the biggest problem in our food system today is the increase of corporate power. The fact that corporations go after people with lawyers, they pressure farmers, indicates that they are sensitive to these calls to accountability. They're very sensitive to these calls of accountability. But when a small group of, and let's not be abstract, it's not just corporations, it's a small group of people whose power is enabled through corporations. When a small group of people and a small number of corporations dominate access to the essentials of the food system, inevitably people are going to go hungry. Inevitably, the system will fall, will strain under its own pressure.
That's not what their CEOs would say. Obviously, they would say, actually, four who dominate, their interest is selling the most food and seeds and all the rest of it, fertilizer.
Indeed, right? Exactly. The fact is that corporation, its job is to profit. Its job is to make money. Its job is not to make sure everyone has access to nutritious and appropriate food. And for thousands of years, and let's even go more recently, in countries that are not dominated by corporate food systems, we don't need corporations to feed each other properly. We don't need corporations operations to produce enough food to feed everyone in the world. Operations aren't driven by a profit model. That profit model then determines how land is purchased. It determines what is grown, the conditions of the working conditions.
And we know that antitrust regulations, if they sometimes work, certainly there have been certainly investigation. Professor Michael Thackeray, I'll stop you there. More from the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food after this break. Welcome back. I'm still here with Professor Michael Thackeray, the UN's Special Rapporteur on the right to food. The structure of this supply and demand, it was famous a few decades ago how the European Union destroyed grain mountains and wine lakes and butter mountains. And they had to do that to keep the prices stable. So you're against destroying food to keep prices stable, which is a central tenet of the way food capitalism, as it were, works.
Everyone has to figure out how to stabilize prices in food. This is the eternal problem, and no one. And this is it. When you're trying to focus on stabilizing the market, stable prices that are high enough that farmers and fishers, pastoralists, and people that make our food and workers can make a good living, a dignified living, and that prices are affordable for people, is a different question of we want a stable market, we want a fair market, versus people trying to create a market that's profit-oriented. Now, on the destruction of has the European Common Agricultural Policy worked, we could spend the whole show on that. I think the
European Union here in Britain.
Right, and I understand, and the UK is in a moment of trying to figure out its own sort of agricultural policy, but the destruction of food for the purpose of stability, I can't speak to the specifics of that because it just shows no system has really worked in recent memory.
But surely as a UN Special Rapporteur, you don't have.
Oh god. We're okay? We're okay? Yep, we're fine.
I mean, China responsible
Oh
for
god.
disproportionate improvement in food health and
No, we're fine.
800 million out of poverty, of course, since Tiananmen Square, actually, and that's a World Bank figure. If 820 million are currently undernourished around the world, I mean, should the world not just follow the Chinese communist model, which got 800 million out of poverty?
So the fact that we're bringing in poverty now into the issue is exactly right. So unfortunately, there's a link between poverty and hunger, but that doesn't have to be the case. Why is it that we've constructed a global economy and national economies when people's income determines their ability to get access to food? Your income, your source of money, your source of livelihood should not determine your access to good food. There are instances where the poor, the middle class, and the rich alike eat well in a way that is affordable, that is healthy, that is culturally appropriate. The fact that our food systems are so closely tied to market trends, to economic factors from issues of poverty, highlights the problem. Now, what each individual country can do becomes very specific. Agrarian reform, the redistribution of land, that's one way of thinking about it. But there's always a cost, and I always worry about, we can look at statistics and say, X many thousands or X many million of people have been taken out of poverty. But at what price did people have to pay where people's human rights are violated to pull them out of poverty? And is hunger still an issue? So you can still have, for example, in rich countries where they are rich, where you've reduced poverty, but hunger still is on the rise. So there isn't always a direct correlation between decrease of poverty and addressing the issue of malnutrition and hunger.
Yeah, let's go to nutrition. I mean, I actually just had a sandwich here. I went from a supermarket. Any evidence you found that there's less nutrition in fruit, vegetables now than, say, before?
There is more processed food. The more we process food, the less nutrition there is, and the more food producers have to put nutrition back into the food. So the more you start from if you start from a raw vegetable, chock full of nutrients and vitamins and the like, and the more you're processing it, the more you're depleting its nutritional value. And what we're seeing is the rise, the increase of the consumption of processed food.
And so what companies do is they have to add things, they have to process more, as opposed to people's access to fruits and vegetables.
I mean, this is as part of a class war. Obviously, elites are ever more embracing, and they're ever more embracing more expensive organic foods and so on. You're talking about the rest of us. You're talking about the 99%.
Indeed, exactly. Isn't it ridiculous now that the rich now are making what we all sort of for centuries people is fresh food that isn't covered in pesticides, that's culturally appropriate, and it gets turned into a product. And I think that's the point, is when people say, oh, but organic food is just for the elite, and that's a choice. Why is it that, I'll give you a very specific example. In the United States, most of the subsidies go to things like corn and soybean. Fruits and vegetables are barely subsidized in the United States. That's indicative of many industrialized countries, that they're not subsidizing the correct foods, the foods that we know are nutritious. Mainly fruits and vegetables.
Is that because of lobbying by these big companies? I don't know, a special rapporteur, whether you can compete with the millions of dollars, lobbying dollars of the big food companies?
I can't compete, but the people can compete. This is the point. This is to bring it back to the right to food. This is what the power of the right to food is. It starts with the powers in the hands of people, and people organizing themselves around their sense of entitlement. So the reason these subsidies sort of end up subsidizing in the wrong way is, at first these subsidies started out of a previous hunger crisis, which was the 30s in the United States and around the world. Many industrialized countries experienced hunger before the Great Depression in the late 20s. And so to keep away revolution, they started subsidizing farmers in unprecedented ways starting in the 20s and 30s. But then what started happening is the people they were subsidized gained more power, and it was hard to change and hard to adapt to new ideas. So then these companies now have gained power in the 50s and 60s. Now they lobby in a particular way, but it doesn't have to be so. I've seen in multiple places when people organize, when they come together, especially around the idea of the right to food, especially around the idea of food as an entitlement, it creates new social reality, new political power that politicians cannot ignore, that companies cannot ignore. So the more people are organizing, the more unions are organizing, the more farmers are organizing, we're seeing real changes happen that are undoing existing power structures.
Well, our lawyers will definitely be glad you didn't mention the names of the actual companies. Obviously, they all deny wrongdoing, but when you talk about that mass action, why do you think international media did not focus as I suppose, one of the biggest stories of last year? What did you make of the India farm protest?
I think the India farm protest inspired many decided to change its laws and reduce the support of farmers and make it harder for farmers to have access to a stable pricing system, to a market that focuses on price stability and farmer support. And the shift was to make it easier for corporations to engage directly with farmers. The argument of the Indian government was that they wanted to provide farmers more opportunities to sell to anybody, but what everyone knew was this would enable corporations to enter the Indian market more easily. The protesters, the farmers who were against this idea and who mobilized by this thousands and millions, their argument was, we don't want this system in which we will be dominated by corporations. We're not here for maximizing profit. What we want is a stable market so we can maintain our livelihood and live with dignity and maintain a stable food system.
You come.
Let go.
You want to throw down? You got my back?
I'll pat your back. I can do the backstroke. I can sing Baby Come
Help! Close your checks with my mouth. Need you to help me cash them.
I'm coming, Dad.
Usually people come forward whenever they say that to me. Where'd you go?
I got the usher.
I almost died.
I almost died too. Of shock. I accidentally ran into a Hugh Grant movie. Such a youthful haircut and such an old face. She didn't do anything. No, turn it
The candy out of you. Some guy popped off in the movie theater and I had to be totally heroic big time. Steve had the opportunity to help, but instead he left. Like that little piggy in the straw house who ran away from the big bad dragon. Oh, I have that right. It's in the Bible, Steve.
Don't worry, Dad. I'll be brave next time something happens.
You can't make a plan to be brave. Brave is either something you are or you're not. And you are not. Hey, don't be so down, buddy. There is something you are. You are it.
How is it that we would allow the people and the organizations that have...
Gene, you were unusually quiet this evening. Is that going to be a new thing? What?
I'm late for my period.
If you jump up and down, the thing started.
I might be pregnant.
What? Oh, is that possible? I got a vasectomy.
You've got some sort of weird automated Japanese vasectomy. And you've never done anything about the 30 recall postcards they sent us.
No! This is a disaster. I don't want another child. I just took the safety latches off the toilet seats.
Listen, I don't want a baby either. Trading sushi to bourbon for hemorrhoids and swollen boobs? Screw that!
Where are we going? Auntie, can we move this conversation to the top of the staircase?
It's too early to push me down the stairs, Stan. I'm not even sure if I'm pregnant. I'll take a pregnancy test.
Well, if you're going to take a pregnancy test, you're going to have to pee. So get you some water.
I'll get my own water.
It's letting the fox into that handcuffs.
Hey, Dad, how great is this? At less than 10% battery life. I just started an email.
Jeez, Mr. S. Nailing your daughter makes me super hungry.
Let's not talk about sex. I'm pissed at sex. My seed might be pregnant.
What?
You can't handle another child chipping away at the heroic Smith name.
Well, you never know. My dad, for some reason, thinks I'm an idiot, but he was my younger brother.
Yes. Baby could be the son I never had.
Alive over here.
He could be brave and have my back. I'll name him something strong. Steve.
Martin named Steve over here.
We'll change your name. You can call yourself Eve, the douche.
Jeff! Ready to go again?
Oh, I'm tired. Anyone else want to tag in?
The Guaranteed MasterCard from Capital One gets you a
Roger, I really need some advice.
Always happy to dispense sound checklists.
It's my dad. He thinks I'm a coward. But if I do something to show him I'm brave, he says it won't mean anything because I'm trying to prove I'm brave. It's a conundrum. The harder I try, the less he'll think of me.
Not a conundrum with a word that's the same forward and back.
No, that's a calendar.
Shame me.
Anyway, there's nothing I can do to change his mind. There'll always be a wimp in his eyes.
Certainly is a palindrome. I got it. Here's what we do. We dress you up in a masked superhero costume. You do something brave, and I catch it all on video. Then, this is good. We get that video to Greg and Terry, who show it on the news. While your dad is watching their report, you, Steve, will walk through the room, letting the superhero outfit accidentally fall out of your backpack. This way, your dad will realize you're acting mild-mannered to hide your true brave identity. All right. And we get to dress you up in a superhero outfit. Wheelo! Wheelo, cape or no cape?
Which one of you doesn't want the cape?
Oh no, we both do. We're just arguing about who loves them more.
The night belongs to me, for I am Greater Chimdale County Man.
Now, that name's terrible.
team is not going to give up and accept things. It's not going to go away.
Filming your bravery isn't just the excuse I've been looking for to buy a video camera. I broke my last one making a short film about butts. 7,000 hours of footage down the drain.
I'm gonna grab some Neosporin from my room in case I get a boo-boo fighting crime.
Oh, can I borrow a tank top? I don't feel great with what I'm wearing. Just way too much sleeve for me. I feel like I'm 90% sleeve over here.
Dad, what are you doing?
Turning your room into a nursery to inspire new Steve not to be a wuss. I'm painting scenes from John McCain's life on the walls. Here's him getting his legs broken by the VC. That wall there portrays him selecting Sarah Palin, a running mate without knowing the first thing about her. And here's him chewing off his own cancerous mold.
Yeah, well, I'm just a mild-mannered kid, so I wouldn't relate to any of that.
Now you hit on me! After all these years of rebuffing my advances, now I'm finally moving on, and you have the audacity to... Oh, I get it now. Never mind.
Anyway, I invited McCain to a hero's brunch I'm throwing here at the house.
Hero's brunch?
Yep, I'll be French toasting it up with a few of our nation's greatest. I really think McCain might come. I made his invitation super fancy.
Come on, it's everywhere! Excuse me, what's the difference between digital zoom and optical zoom?
They're the same thing.
But the box says they're different.
Oh, yeah, it does. It's the difference. Let me know if you need any further assistance.
Thank you. Thank you. Why did I thank you?
Just buy it. I can't wait to prove to my dad that I'm brave. After tonight, he's gonna love me more than my unborn, unconfirmed, maybe baby brother.
Maybe, baby. Maybe, baby. That's what to say. Maybe, baby. 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 Maybe, baby.
So, did you take the pregnancy test?
I did.
And? Am I going to be a father again?
Well, I didn't have a home pregnancy test, so I had to take one online. We waited for the doctor to email me back with the results.
How do you take a pregnancy test over the computer?
Well, per instruction, I first took several pictures of my genitals. And then one of me peeing on a teddy bear and sent them to the doctor.
I don't think that's real.
He's a legitimate doctor, Stan. See for yourself. That must be the result. Oh, God, here goes. Oh, Dr. Badger says my lab work requires more information. He needs to see my boobs popping out of a cheerleading outfit. I know what you're thinking. What is the boob test going to tell him that the butthole test didn't? He's just being super careful.
Are you sure criminals will be intimidated by my outfit?
It's not an outfit, Steve. It's called a onesie.
Sounds like someone is in need of help. Oh my God, this woman is repeatedly headbutting this man in the stomach.
Yes, Steve, that's exactly what's happening.
Sir, I am here to stop this.
Excuse me, is that the XLR Mega Zoom? I just got the same one. If you don't mind my asking, what'd you pay? You won't be undersold. Try this same camcorder at Monty's for $20 less.
You have your receipt?
No, I don't have a receipt. I stole the floor model.
Can't believe we've been walking around all night and couldn't find one crime.
This neighborhood's gotten too safe since the blacks moved in. David and Franklin Black, two white brothers who killed every Mexican in town.
Look what they're doing to that monument. It's Langley Falls' most sacred memorial, commemorating the victims of the great bus crash in 2010.
This is your big chance. Don't stop those hooligans and I'll film the whole thing.
I demand you cease your criminal mischief.
Look how round this kid's head is. His geometrical perfection is unnerving. Let's beat him up.
Roger, the plan's not working.
Run if you want to run. I mean live.
That didn't work at all.
Sure it did. I have the whole thing on film.
I wasn't courageous.
No, you weren't. Danger reared its ugly head, and you folded faster than a chain of Rhea Perlman-themed all-you-can-eat diarrhea restaurants named Diarrhea Perlmans. But you don't have to be brave, you just have to look brave for your dad. That's the beauty of movies. I snip out the part where you were a raging Nancy sissy and edit it to make you out to be the hero.
You can do that?
Yeah, Steve. I'm a professional film editor. I can do anything. Tyler Perry's movies are actually quite good before I get my hands on them. All right, now we drop it at Greg and Terry's. Camping. Yes, I like pina coladas and getting caught in the...
Not now.
And when? Who rings the doorbell at 3 in the morning? Weirdos. Stan, the news is on. Turn to channel 3, quick.
We secretly acquired this exclusive video late last night. The contents will shock you, but there's no need to fret, Langley Falls. The masked hero has arrived. Take it easy, shouting guy from the B-52s.
I demand you cease your criminal mischief.
That's one brave SOB.
Okay, this is your moment.
Thanks, Roger.
You're welcome, champ. I do it because I care. You know what would be good right now?
Not the pina colada song.
Whoa, Steve, there's your own shadow. Try not to be scared.
Oops. Oh, where is it? It has to be here.
Hold on there, stranger in my living room. Roger? You? You're Langley Falls' masked hero?
Oh my God, I didn't realize I was wearing this. You found me out. You discovered my true identity, something I never wanted to happen.
Now look at you in a whole new light. I would be proud to shake your hand. Do you have a name, Roger?
Greater Jimdale County Man.
Awesome.
How come I didn't see it coming?
There.
I should have known better. But then you said you were doing it because you care.
I do care, kiddo. I care about me. If it makes you feel any better, it wasn't my plan the whole time. As soon as I heard your dad was having that hero's brunch, I decided to throw you under the bus. I love brunch, Steve. I love everything about it. I love drinking too much, blowing off my afternoon plans, sleeping, waking up disoriented.
You are something else, Roger.
It's not like you were even a real hero. I held up a gun and the kids ran off. You'd be living a lie. Is that what you want to do, Steve? Live a lie? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lie to live. Now, we've had enough of this. That's a little trick I learned to quiet newborns when I worked in the maternity ward. Quite a few people are still looking for this little lady, I'll tell you that much.
Anyone in here? There you are.
Steve, it's not a good time.
Dad thinks I'm a coward.
Mommy is very stressed.
And then I was about to change his mind. You were right again.
Put a sock in it, Steve. Stop worrying about what your father thinks of you. For God's sake, you're almost 15 years old. If you lived in Fresno, you'd be a father by now.
Wow. Tough love. You're right. Thanks for the wake-up call. I'm going to look back on this day and...
Okay, your time's up. Get out.
Mommy, strong.
Nothing like a hero's brunch. We have Lauren, the hero of the movie theater, and the masked hero of Langley Falls.
Present.
And the hero of the Hudson, Sully Sullenberger. Sully, you nimble Irish bastard.
Mr. Sullenberger, I admire what you're doing with the whole hero thing. You know how to do it right.
I appreciate that, son.
No, I mean it. You are milking the hell out of it. You went to the presidential inauguration. You were introduced to the World Series. You were on all the talk shows. You get the key to any city you want. Have you gotten to pull the switch on the electric chair yet? That's what I'm trying to get. I hear during electrocutions, bodily functions may let go. That would be fun to see.
Mom really showed me something when she was on the toilet. I just want you to know that I'm going to stop trying to prove myself to you. As of this moment, I've stopped caring what you think of me. Now I'm going to get on with my life.
Who was that? His name is Eve.
Like the douche. Well, don't need this anymore.
Oh, hey. I'm in a Lele. I think it's A. No, B. Either way, it's hepatitis, and now you have it too. My baby's in that car. My baby! Masked man, thank you so much for saving my baby. It was very brave what you did.
No, ma'am, it is you who has helped me. All this time I was hoping my dad would think I'm brave. But now I know I'm brave. That's all that counts.
What the hell was he talking about?
Kid's probably on drugs. I know I am.
This is good sorbet.
All right, I'm saying it. Why is he even here? He's just a guy who landed a plane in a river to save his own ass. You want to be a real hero? Avoid the geese like all the other pilots do every single day.
You're right. She's right. But I'm right too. This is good sorbet.
This just in, the masked hero strikes again. This was submitted by an amateur videographer. It is shot in what is known as Wachowski Alley. Did they honor you as the star of the Wall Street? Film footage.
How is this possible? You were with me the whole day. That must mean maybe they can't be the masked hero.
Answer any questions without my lawyer present.
Fine. I'll get the truth out of you one way or the other. Lauren, grab your flashlight.
I got my shot in. I can hold my head up high no matter what happens. We should think about recessed lighting.
Hey there.
Hey,
So, what were you up to today?
nothing much.
I know you're the masked hero. Roger told me everything. I misjudged you, kiddo. I thought you were a wuss, and you proved me wrong. Didn't even brag about it. That's a real hero. And I would be proud to shake your hand.
Could I keep my name then, Dad?
Of course, buddy. We'll name the other kid something else. You know, I really think your mom's going to come around to having another baby in the house.
I just got the biggest, bloodiest period of all time!
Now, Steve?
Sure.
Yes, I like pina coladas. Get me caught in the rain. And the feel of the ocean.
And the taste of champagne.
And you like making love at midnight.
In the dunes of the Cape.
You're the lady I've looked for. Come with me and escape.
Giggity. Bye. Have a beautiful time.
Good morning, USA. I got a feeling that it's gonna be a wonderful day. The sun in the sky has a smile on his face, and he's shining a suit. All right, quiet down, everyone. Shh, deputy's talking. Shut your face, Sanders. Well, it's the start of summer, or more officially, our slow season. Terrorism drops as our Johnny Jihads traded their bomb suitcases for bomb pops. 2 strikes, kiss ass! Find out what a third gets you! I dare you! Anyway, as always, we will be cutting back to our summer hours.
All right, summertime.
Well, I'm off to the lake house, boys. Jet skis and dock sex.
I'm going to spend my summer giving something back to the community. Chlamydia.
You guys' plans suck. I'll be spending another summer at the country club.
Stan, welcome back.
Stan! Back to work for another summer.
Horatio, good to be back. Groundskeeping. Keeping the grounds. Beautiful day. Bien bueno. Hard to believe, after working here 30 summers, I almost had enough money saved to finally afford a membership.
I think you're just going to become a rich jerk like the rest of them. The other day, Mr. Vanderhilt, he stuffed a live swan in his golf bag as a surprise from his caddy. You know what the surprise was? How far that swan took the caddy scrotum across the 17th fairway.
Don't worry, I'll never become one of them. Guys like Vanderhill have been handed everything their whole lives, but not me. I've been baking in the sun on a ride hour that's rattling my butt apart.
I told you, wear 7 underwears.
I'm going to actually appreciate this place because I worked for it.
Terry, give me a kiss. My wife is old.
Stop calling my house!
Klaus, this summer heat gets a girl a thinking. What's it all about, man? Why are we here?
To eat chocolate and get our toes down.
Champagne clean. Seriously, I'm gonna die one day, and I want to make sure I've left something behind I can be proud of.
What about your kids?
Nah. I'm talking about something more permanent. I'm gonna invent a catchphrase. Something as profound as all that in a bag of chips.
Oh, come on. Don't you think everyone is trying coming up with a catchphrase? It's next to impossible.
Well, Klaus, I'm gonna do it. And you can put that frog in the casserole.
Bitch, what'd I just say?
That's Norm MacDonald, right? How is this Dancing with the Stars?
Oh, what a day. Got a blood blister, smashed my thumbnail black, and fried up one hell of a farmer's man.
Ah, I know, I got one too.
Can't make fudge out of a waterfall.
What are you doing? Sounded like there was still some soda left.
I don't like the last half. It's not as effervescent. Nope, the bottom's not for me. I'm what they call a top.
That's a soda from my fridge, which I bought with money I worked for.
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted it. My fingers are still sticky. You can suck on them if you want.
Well, I'll be upstairs melting pearls on my tummy if you need me.
Steve, you're just like those rich jerks at the club who don't appreciate what they have because they've never worked for it.
Got to appreciate to graduate.
Now you have a problem with soda and being rich?
No, I have a problem with people who have it too easy. I admire the self-made men of this world. The Levi Strutzels, the Hulk Hogans, the Larry Flints. Imagine overcoming a name like Larry. Horatio, my son Steve is going to be working with us for the summer.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks. Ah! What the hell?
That, Steve, is a working man's handshake. A locked wrist that says he stands strong by his convictions. A firm grip that says you can trust him. Plenty of thick calluses that show he's not afraid to persevere.
Kind of like Shrek's hands.
Your hands are the exact opposite. But thankfully, a summer of hard work will fix you right up.
Steve, you're in luck. You started here at a good time. Tomorrow, his employees sleep.
Ooh, is that where the girls ask the guys?
No, once a month, the club gives us an hour early in the morning to swim in the pool right before they drain it. It's magic. Oh, no.
It's Vanderhill.
A bird distracted me on my backswing. It was going, "Dick, dick, dick." That's not my name, and it was saying it right at me.
Yes, Mr. Vanderhill.
I'm sure it was a female. Now go find its nest and smash its offspring before I shoot you with my turd gun.
Yes, Mr. Vanderhill.
Roger? Hey! Why didn't my dad recognize you?
Oh, everyone in the family has one persona they can't see through. Your mom's is my Korean kid who shoots pool with a giant chopstick.
No way.
And Haley doesn't realize I'm her sandal repairman.
Get out.
And remember that spin the bottle party you went to?
Yeah? You were Alicia Wilkner? We went on 7 dates.
9. I roofied you on 2 of them. Nothing happened. Wink, wink.
But how can you afford a membership here?
Concise story. Several years ago, I married some 95-year-old bag 2 weeks before she kicked it. Reverse Anna Nicole Snifter. Her daughter was not thrilled. You're never gonna get your mom's money, Pamela! Why are you dressed like Peter Venkman?
It's doctor. And because Dad got me a job to teach me the value of hard work.
You mean he's teaching you to be a chump? Come on, Steve. Suckers like him just glorify hard work because they never had an opportunity to not work hard. Believe me, everyone takes the easy way if they can. That's why we tell fart jokes. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
This water feels good on my jeans.
Where's Steve? I believe he's missing employee swim. Vanderhill! Steve, what are you doing? I'm so sorry, Mr. Vanderhill.
Silence, worker! I've decided to give your boy a job hanging out with me for the summer. I like him. He makes me laugh.
Looks like it's tea time, boys.
You can't teach that. Oh, and by the by, I pay like I walk. Handsomely.
That's not a job. You're just getting paid to lounge around.
I'm sorry, is an employee talking back to a member? Didn't think so. Steve, meet the fella. This is Jill Shepard and Johnny Golf.
Actually, it's Johnny Golf from the tennis, but that's a real mouthful.
The calamari, the ribeye, the turkey club, the key lime pie, and the crab stuffed Dover sole.
No! That's enough of that. Steve, honey, finish pushing that onto the floor for me. Good boy, here's a hundo.
I don't like this, Horatio. These are not the type of people I want my son to be influenced by.
Don't worry, Stan. He's a good kid. I'm sure he'll be able to keep his head on straight.
Yeah! I hate birds and am therefore glad that you kicked one. Here is money.
Spare me your dance recital. Forget the mustard, it's karate time. Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
Wait, what was that? Just now.
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper?
That's it.
That's it?
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper. Your catchphrase.
Of course.
Now you just have to test it out.
Things are getting...
Someone other than me, bitch.
Mom, are you okay? You look like you're gonna burst.
Not yet.
Anyone seen Steve? I didn't see him at the club all afternoon.
Maybe things got too spicy.
Hey now.
Steve, where you been? Let me guess, Vanderhill fired you already.
No, Mr. Vanderhill wanted to sleep one off, so he paid me for the full day and let me leave at noon. Whew, I am stuffed. The loaf was great, Francine. It's just I filled up on lobster and chocolate souffle at the club. Here, for your trouble.
That's it. Don't tip any mother.
Looks like things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
We do not take the easy way in this house. Just like...
I know, self-made man, hard work, I'll go it. Honest work is for suckers. Easy way, best way.
Is that so, Big Shot? Because thanks to my last paycheck, I now have enough saved to buy my way into the club. And it's going to be even sweeter because it wasn't handed to me on a silver platter. I earned it. All $7 grand.
Ah! $7 grand? Tat, that was the cost of a membership 30 years ago when you first started saving.
What?
It's like 200 grand now. You thought, wow! Well, keep on being a working sucker and maybe you can appreciate the club when you're 85 if you're lucky.
Mr. Vanderhill?
Please, Mr. Vanderhill was my father. Call me Spartacus.
I may never have a chance of being a member of this club, but I'll be damned if I'm going to sit by and let you corrupt my son. Me and you, a round of golf. If I win, Steve comes back to work with us.
Ooh, a bet. Okay, but if I win, no more employees swim.
You against the guy that knows every blade of this course? I bet you 200 G's you lose.
Chapman's crazy today. I love him. Count me in too.
Fine, I'll take all your action.
Okay then. Good luck.
Ow! That's the hand I used to peel bananas, you ass.
After the first hole, the score is 35 to 36. You both suck. What do you say next hole wins? We don't have all day.
Yep, sounds good. All right, Stan, if you don't make this, you lose. Yay!
Sucks!
400 grand and no more poor people in the pool!
But I just bought a noodle.
Come on, boys, let's go get drunk and play talcum tag in the locker room.
All right, here we go.
Oh, that is not nice.
Steve-O, go grab some more champagne from the storage closet, huh?
What's going on here?
Oh, this is where I come to do whippets and think about what would happen if the Ninja Turtles had to go to college.
Vanderhill offered me a 50-50 split by through the match. Now I have enough to become a member.
Told you everyone would take the easy way every time.
We're right all along, Steve. Easy way, best way.
I know you probably have a lot of questions, so I'll just tell you. The dean closes down the campus pizza shop, and the Ninja Turtles do not take it well.
Does it get any better?
Only if Mother could get her down with exhaustion and float here next to me.
Oh, now there's too much ice in here. Take it back to the bartender and bring me a new one. And punch it for me, around this hard.
Your dad seems to be fitting in nicely.
Hey, Dad, maybe you should ease up a little.
I'm very eased, Stevie.
I mean, maybe tone it down. You're acting a little aggressive.
If anyone's earned a right to act like this, it's me. Like a fool, I wasted 30 long years trying to get here. So now I'm going to enjoy it. Hey, check it out. I just got that kid to Mickey Mouse here, that guy.
Francine, I think I figured out why your catchphrase got attached.
Because it was a stupid idea.
No, the words are right, just not the delivery. Try saying it like you've just been on a road trip through the South.
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
No, more like you just came in from playing in the snow, but you haven't had your hot chocolate yet.
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
Maybe more a mix of sadness that your dog died, relief because he was riddled with fatty lymphomas, and joy that you can now get a new kitty.
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
Watch Oscar-nominated actress Gabrielle Sidibe do it.
Things are getting too spicy for me.
You look nice, Dad.
I had to pick up a time for the member gala at the club tomorrow, and I figured I'd treat myself. Here, man, let's toss it and take a cab over to Long John Silver's. My treat.
Yeah, doesn't it bother you at all that you lost the toy swim?
Hadn't thought about it. And thank you, Steve, for opening my eyes. If you hadn't, I'd still be wasting my time scrimping pennies.
Janet Jackson played Penny in Good Times.
Jeff, that's the crap that gives me a headache. Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
Huh, that's pretty catchy, Mrs. S.
I am immortal!
Oh, that's great, honey. Set me up with a whole smear. You know, mugs, hats, bags, aprons, slacks, shirts. Hey, shot glasses. I'll take a box of those. Give me a box of those spicy pepper pens. Give me 2 of those, 6 of those. Come on, to Long John Silver.
Woo! Icelandic cut!
Yeah.
Dad?
Hey, why you dressed like Ernie Hudson?
Winston Zeddemore. And because I'm going back to work with Horatio, and you are too.
I am I?
Yes, because I've learned my lesson. By acting like a spoiled jerk, you showed me how I was behaving.
Acting? I'm not acting. I'm playing tomato tennis. Ooh, an unranked one.
You lost him, Steve. Your dad is one of the family.
Feel good to finally hold that member key, Stan.
Sure does. I'll just put it on my keychain. Membership has its privileges.
Greetings, Father.
Hulk Hogan!
He goes to my chiropractor. So I asked him if he'd come talk some sense into you.
Stan, my little Hulkamaniac filled me in on what's going on. And let me tell you something, brother. The Hulkster had to battle my entire life to get where I am, brother. With nothing but sweat, tears, and heartache, and good old red, white, and blue pumping through my veins, brother. All the training, all the matches, all the prayers, and all the brothers made me appreciate everything I've heard. That's why, no matter how many 1, 2, 3s I slap on my opponents, I just thank my lucky, mean genes I was blessed to be able to step into that squared circle and use these 24-inch pythons. Stan, brother, sometimes as a Hulkamaniac, you're gonna look deep down inside yourself and ask, what you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? Listen, Terry, I appreciate you coming out, but...
Oh, what's wrong, Dad? Have you developed rich guy hands?
Handshake.
Looks like your grip's gone soft. Probably from not lifting a finger all day.
Nonsense, Stan. Stick with what got you here, the easy way.
My son's right. I became what I despise the most. I don't want your membership. Not this way. I want to earn it with my working man's hands.
Welcome back, Dad.
What do you say, Vanderhill? You keep my membership in exchange for us getting employees swim back?
No ways to your Jose's.
Well, Hogan, it looks like we're going to have to earn swim time back the hard way.
Good, I was just looking for you. You have the same scowl your mother had when I banged her after I pulled the plug. Ah! God, I was kidding! Looks like someone pulled the plug on your sense of humor. This meeting is over, Pamela. Okay, the meeting's back on. First item of business, those 2 hams you call arms. That one I deserved.
Dad, look! 1 week of hard work and I already got my first blister.
Maybe we take that Playboy out of the bathroom for the summer.
It looks like things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
Hey, that's my wife's saying.
Your wife? That's a little salsa fresca slogan from like 2 Super Bowls ago.
Well, it looks like the Hulkster's work here is done. Good morning, USA. I got a feeling that it's gonna be a wonderful day. The sun in the sky has a smile on his face, and he's shining a salute to the American race. Oh, what's well to say?
Good morning, USA.
Do you have any leads? My girl's been missing for 5 days now.
Look, there's something you should know about your bird. Oh no, I just got a clue in the case of whether or not that new Thai restaurant gives you the runs. It does. Case closed. Teddy Bunker's bathroom key. Stat.
You see, Lorraine, your bird is... how do I put this? Please, find her. No, don't cry. We'll keep looking, okay? I know we'll find her. Thank you, Mr. Wheels.
Out of TP in there, Bonkers, so I had to use the corner of your Ferrari poster. Man, that Lorraine is a cold bitch. Quitting after you told her her bird was dead. You didn't tell her, did you?
She was so upset, I just couldn't break it to her.
You think this fake detective agency with real cases and a pretend office in your father's garage is a joke?
I just hate upsetting people.
Breaking bad news is part of the job, Wheels. It's a part of life. You gotta do it. That's why I volunteer at the cancer ward every Sunday. You're all going to die. Your parents and your doctors are lying to you. You know that megaphone takes 12D batteries? I know, I had the same look when I first opened the compartment. Stick my whole fist in there. No, that's not what she said, Bonkers.
Oh, look at that bunny in a loafer. Oh, you are bunny in a loafer. Well, you are, aren't you?
Oh, that turtle has a hamster on his back.
Let me see this. Ugly, ugly. The ones of my anus are cuter than that panda. Take my picture. I can get on this site.
Hey, so what's going on here?
Not much. How's your big 3-day weekend going?
Good, exciting. It's too exciting. To take a break. Not a young man. Well, you guys are doing something with Klaus, huh?
We're gonna take pictures of him to submit to cute pet pics. Wanna help?
Guess I'll go try on hats in the garage. X-Tree, read all about it.
My grandfather always claimed I would inherit a secret fortune. But when he died, all he left me was this one mysterious key. I don't have any money to pay you, but if you find out what this key opens, you can have half of whatever's inside.
Wow, that sounds like a fun journey. Here's your chance to give some bad news. Tell this kid to hit the bricks.
Listen, you look like a nice kid and all, but we're not going to be able to take our eyes off your sweater. Is it soft? I mean, can I wear it without a t-shirt under it? You know how black guys sometimes wear sweaters?
Fail! Beat it, sweet Charity. We're not taking your case.
Please, this key is my grandfather's legacy. Stop. Legacy.
Fine, we'll take the case. You're lucky you said a word with leg in it. It's my only weakness. That's how I got this foghorn leghorn keychain and this bag of legumes. Teddy Bonkers will validate your parking. Steve, why can't you ever give anyone bad news?
I just hate making people sad.
You're a pushover, but I don't have time to discuss it because I have to push out some green curry. Yes, I tried the Thai restaurant again. It's called giving a place a second chance, and it burns like hell.
So, this detective stuff looks fun. Can I play?
Maybe, Dad, but I'm not sure you understand what we do here.
Oh, no, I get it. It's part pretend, part real, fake detectives, real cases. You're in a wheelchair, Roger can walk. What's not to get?
Tell you what, I'll run it by the leg man and see what he says.
Good. And I'll run to the store and get some lemons. So we'll both be doing something.
Brownie. Come on, buddy, the light's not getting any greener. What up, Wheels? Oh, hold on. Hottie in the next lane. No, baby seat. I'm out. What do you got?
Well, my dad asked me if he could join the agency.
No, we don't need a new employee. Oh, my God. Traffic just came to a freaking standstill.
But
Listen, Wheels, for once in your life, break some bad news and tell your dad he can't join the agency.